back for our daily talk show. We have Jayanti ma'am, and you would have already had a pleasure of listening to her on our opening panel discussion last Monday. And it's been a week now. We are so excited that within the last 7 days, we have done so much. But it's still so little considering what we'll have to deal with. So that puts us up to a great task and also a larger responsibility to handle from here on. And I would recommend and request support from every one of you. Please do take an initiative to invite your friends, to spread the word to the rest of your connections, so that they all can be part of this initiative and take advantage from what we're doing here. So with that, I'm just wanting you all to also raise your hands to talk to the counselor during our conversation, as well as enter your questions. And today's topic and the predominant discussion is all around emotional regulation. Now, emotional regulation, that gives jitters in me as well, because while I was going through the topic, I was just wondering, do I really have emotional regulation? Or do I actually need to practice emotional regulation? Because what I've heard is these are two thoughts of school. One thought of school says that you should control your emotions, you should be able to regulate them, and you should be able to maintain a balance with your emotions or on your emotions. But there is another thought of school who tells you that emotions are a regular phenomena or a natural phenomena of your body and the way you react to certain scenarios and situations. And when you try to control them, you might be garnering or you might be putting in a lot of distress in you that will burst out at some point in time. So it is no point that you got to control or sort of try to balance it. Now, these are two very contrasting opinions. And yes, I would seek your help and your expertise in clarifying which one of these is more relevant to us, more beneficial, and what should we be doing, especially from a youngster's perspective.
And I think we should also later, midway through the discussion, to talk about gender difference in expressing emotions.
Fantastic. We shall. I mean, that is where today's discussion is going to be quite interesting. And guys, please do take advantage of this discussion. Ask as many questions as you would want to, and I shall pass on the mic to you to ask your own questions. So please be prepared.
So basically, the question which you are asking is to say or not to say, whether we should express or we should not express, whether expressing the complete emotion is required or we have to kind of tone it down and express it. Basically, emotional regulation is about the way we regulate our blood pressure, the way we regulate our diet, the way we regulate our lifestyle. Emotions also need to be regulated. When emotions are not regulated is when the pressure cooker blasts, basically. So there are two types of people. One, where they say whatever comes to their mind. They have no inhibition. They just say it out. Whatever is there on their head, they will say it, whether it's required or not required. The second category of people are people who will keep quiet. They will not express. They will not say anything. They will have this word I've come across quite frequently in Telugu is momatam. So that is there. The hesitation to say, if I say this, what the other person will feel. At the same time, the person also knows that I'm right. Whatever I'm feeling right now is right. Small thing. It starts from childhood. The parents think this is what the child needs. The child knows this is not what I need, but can never ever say to the parent that I don't need this. They continue to grow like that. They continue to grow denying their own feelings, and the parents also deny the feelings of the child. And there comes a youth who is confused about, should I say I love you to my parents? Should I say I love you to my girlfriend? Or should I not say anything at all? Okay. So this is where the emotional regulation comes in, where you need to realize that I can say some things in a certain way where the other person is not going to take it in the wrong way. And even if there is a misunderstanding, there is something called a communication wherein you can talk things out. It need not be in anger always. We can talk things out. We can say things in the open. So always expressing yourself is also not right, and always not expressing yourself is also not right. We need to come to the midway. So that is what is emotional regulation about. To take a content or somebody's opinion, to take it, to understand it and see whether it is related to me. A lot of times people come to me and they say that, my mother-in-law said, my mother said, my brother said, my boyfriend said, my girlfriend said. What did they say? They said that I am dumb. I am dumb. I am stupid. Then I ask them one simple question. There is a salesman who comes and tells you to buy this pen, which is 1 lakh rupees. Usually you get that pen for 10 rupees. Will you buy it? You will not buy it. Of course you won't buy it, because you know that's not the value of that pen. So when you can deny that, why can't you deny when somebody is telling you you're dumb? Why can't you say that, no, I am not dumb? So it's like that. It is how you receive something and process it in such a way that there is no disturbance and you are able to express that opinion. Always freedom of speech is there, freedom of expression is there. We need to know the right way to do it. So as we go on in this talk, we will find more techniques. So basically what I'm trying to tell is, when someone says something about you, you need to question yourself whether am I really that person or not. And if you are not that person, you don't have to take it. You don't have to take that criticism.
Thanks, ma'am. This brings me to a very fundamental question on how do I understand? Am I a person who is uncomfortable with expressing my emotion, or am I a person who's already balancing my emotions and someone who knows how to do an emotional regulation? Because both of these might seem quite similar. Either I'm not expressing them because I fear of expressing them, or I would have already understood how to balance it, so I'm not expressing that. So how do I recognize what I am?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right in the sense that a lot of people think that they are always right.
Yes.
And they may be wrong. And there are a lot of people who may think that I'm always wrong and they may be right. So this is the thing, like whether am I balanced? So if you are an emotionally regulated person, automatically that shows in the confidence you have in speaking to people.
Okay.
And you are a person who will not accept any undue criticism from anybody. But a person who is always taking the victim role, say for example, I have to go to college, it suddenly started raining. Now I have to go to college and it suddenly started raining are two totally different issues. But because I have to go to college, it is raining.
Yes.
Okay, so I am responsible for that rain to come. It is a very irrational thought, but that person who doesn't have confidence, who is not emotionally regulated, will believe. Another example I will give you. I am supposed to pray every day. I don't pray one day, somebody falls sick in the family. It's because of me. I did not pray. I don't care. I am this very useless person who doesn't care about anybody. These are the labels we give to ourselves first before anybody else gives us these labels. So when we start giving ourselves these labels, that means that we are not emotionally regulated. For example, in my own profession, if somebody tells me, you are not good enough. Some client tells me that you are not good enough, you are biased. Now, should I feel bad about it? If I am not confident about myself, if I am not an emotionally regulated counselor or a therapist, I will feel bad about it. But I know somewhere there is a barrier, somewhere what I am saying and what that person is receiving is not correct. So I need to correct myself. I will not give up my profession just because one person has said this to me. So that is emotional regulation. When there is when there is no emotional regulation, believe me, there will be a lot of mess in the head. Nothing will seem right. Okay, everything will feel as if it is falling apart. Every little thing will make you cry or angry. And there will be some self-harm issues also. In people who have difficult, we cannot say difficulty, they have emotional dysregulation. DYS, dysregulation, there will be a lot of self-harm.
Yeah, that is perfect. I mean, I have come across a couple of students. Uh, Guys, can you please go on mute? Yeah, I'm sorry. I've come across a couple of students and also my own experiences talking to a few people earlier. They seems to be having an opinion that their parents' misfortune or their parents' current scenarios are also to do with their birth. I mean, there are a couple of friends who said that, yeah, after I am born or after so and so person is born, they have gone through a lot of misfortune, and everything that happens that is everything that is bad to the families just because I'm born or just because my fortune is not right. Now, is that also something to be regulated? Is there a need for such people to seek help from counselors to understand that they have a problem with their emotional regulation?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially Indians, we are so much conditioned by our astrologers. So they believe so much. The parents believe so much in astrology. It's an independent thing. A person being born, and the date of some bad thing happening. The person being born is decided at the time of conception, and some incidental happening, some accident happens, or somebody dies. Yeah, there are so many children who come for counseling who, when they immediately after they were born, they lose their fathers, and they are labeled as the unlucky person, that you are unlucky, you killed your father. They are with that guilt, and that guilt festers, it is infected so much that it turns into anger, and they become bullies in turn. So this is happening in our culture. It is there in a lot of cultures, it is there also. So yes, such people do need emotional regulation. They need building up of self-esteem. Their thinking is illogical. So through counseling and therapy, they are made to realize that these are irrational two situations being made rational by two irrational thoughts or situations. And a lot of family counseling also happens, wherein people are taught to unlearn those forms of communication.
So there is always a thing to understand that beyond a certain point, you should not be really caring for things that are not in your control. For example, your first example of a student wanting to go to the college, but then it rains all of a sudden. So the student is under the impression that it is because of their misfortune that the rain has started falling. So here, that particular person really doesn't have any control over a rain or something else, but we start criticizing ourselves.
Yes.
So one of the scenarios that I've seen is, let's say, one of my friends who, because of whose, I mean, she's a girl, and she always keeps telling me that because her father couldn't have a guy, and he's going through a lot, and she's not able to help him as if a guy or a son could help. So she always feels low about herself. So is this also part of emotional regulation?
This may not be majorly due to emotional. As I said, it is a conditioning. It is a conditioning by the family, right from the childhood. Like,
Yes.
Unfortunately you were born. Unfortunately you were born. You were expecting a boy. You were born. So the child doesn't know, like, is it a mistake I was born, or is it a mistake I was born a girl? So they don't know that. Now, as they grow up, they grow up with this self of insufficiency. So here it is more about self-worth. But yes, in this scenario also, they will not be able to take things as they are. For example, if this girl grows up and goes into studies, everything is fine, educationally is good, working in a very good MNC and all of those things, but will be unable to take things at face value.
Yeah.
Will not be able to take things. Like, for example, if the team is criticized, she might start feeling it is her mistake.
Yeah.
So if the company is suffering, she might start feeling it is her mistake. So they catastrophize everything.
So that creeped into her regular day-to-day life as well, not
Yes.
only from her family perspective, but also into her overall personality.
Yes.
Now that brings us to an important point. Now, how is it different for a guy and a girl to control their emotional feelings and start practicing emotional regulation?
So, right from childhood, boys are told you can't cry. You are not supposed to cry.
Oh, I'm a victim of that, please.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can't cry. And I really don't understand, if a man cannot cry, why do they have tear glands? It is there. It is in the physiology to cry. So if you are crying, you are weak. Okay. And the girls are always supposed to cry, which is also not right. Okay, if you are not crying, if you're a girl and you're not crying, that means you're arrogant. And if you're a guy and you're crying, that means you're a sissy or a ninny or a girl or, like that. You're weak, you're not manly enough and all that. So the gender difference is right there, right from the childhood, it's there. Now what happens? This person, the male person, if he falls down as a kid, he falls down and he is injured, right? He is going to cry, the tears are going to come. Pain is not different because you're a man. But of course, if you see research, women are more tolerant of depression than men.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, women tolerate a lot more of pain than men. If you see in research also, if you see in day-to-day life also, men they resort to smoking or drinking. Nowadays, women are also doing that, not as a resort, but as a
Lifestyle.
lifestyle.
As
They
a,
are
as a
doing
change
it.
of lifestyle.
Yeah, they're doing it, smoking, drinking, and all that. But earlier, somebody would say like, I started smoking because of the stress. So if that has to be there, then how many women should be smoking now?
Yeah.
So they are not allowed to give the outlet of grieving for anything or feeling sad for anything. So that grooms their personality either into somebody who falls sick very frequently, who will not accept that I'm depressed or I'm anxious, but will resort to something else, like beating somebody, throwing an anger or something. Women, they will cry. They do cry. They cry. They talk to women. They talk to men. They talk, express, and they bring it out. That is the difference in gender. So women are allowed to cry. Men are not allowed to cry. Women are allowed to express. Men are told you need to, you
Hold
know,
back,
you have kashtapadali. Tappadu.
absorb, hold back.
Yeah.
No, I can give you all the words that I get. So
Yeah.
I'm a,
If you yourself break down, what will happen to the family? Why
yeah.
can't why can't it be a woman for a change who is holding up the family? Why is it that all the strengths have to be complemented? The weaknesses also have to, when we say that we see jatakas or we see profiles for marriage, for the youth, or for a relationship, or for an engagement. Why can't it be complemented? Why can't the strength and weak? Why can a human being not have both?
Yeah. Yeah. So, team who are on the call, if you have anything to ask for, please raise your hands and I'll give you a chance to talk to the counselor, and also write down your questions on the message. I'm sure many of you would want to talk today because of the topic that we are discussing about. So I'm waiting for you to raise your hands and I'll be more than happy to put you on one-on-one with the counselor. So take this opportunity. Right. Now, coming back to our discussion, ma'am. Now, men and women. So when this balance happens, especially in a relationship, now, how important it is to support each other's emotional regulation and sort of have an open dialogue on what is needed, not only with the partner, also maybe with the parents. Is it important for us to go back, discuss with parents, and tell them that that is okay to talk about things because we are already we have crossed that 20 mark. We are adults. We are no longer kids.
Yeah.
So when we talk to, when I say we, I'm representing all of the students here. I've already crossed 30, so please don't take me wrong. So all of these students here, should they be talking to their parents? Should they be talking to their friends? Should they be talking to their partners if they already have partners? To make them understand that it is important for them to talk about their feelings as well as let the other person talk.
Yes. So what happens if we start first with a relationship, because the youth now today is a lot about relationship. Whether they have the earning or not, they definitely are in a relationship. Okay. Now this relationship funda starts from 7th, 8th, ninth grades nowadays, ninth or 10th you can say. So now what happens is by the time they come to 20s, they have a lot of baggage, past history is there. Okay. Now this past history between two people now who are in a new relationship, they don't understand that we cannot let that affect the present. They don't know. They get into the relation. A lot of youth today gets into a relationship on rebound. They've broken up with someone and then they get into a relationship with somebody. And most of the times it is the best friend of that person they get into relationship with because they found a comfort zone talking to that person. Number one is that getting into a relationship on rebound. Number two is when there has been whenever somebody comes to me at 23, 24 and say that I've had a lot of relationships till now. So I go chronologically. And by the time I'm done with the session, they realize that they've had only one or two relationships and the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth don't count as relationships at all. So they say that they come with this feeling that I've been rejected so many times. I've been rejected in relationships so many times. Now, when they are in ninth, 10th grade and they think they are in a supposed relationship, they cannot talk to their parents about it. Because already that fear is there. Parents would have told, now you are grown up, don't get into a relationship, don't do this, it's all wrong, morally wrong, don't sleep with a guy, don't sleep with a girl. All of these things are taught by the parents. Now they think that parents are not going to understand. If we see from the parents' perspective, they are afraid. They are very scared for the safety of their children. So they are all the more, they are helicoptering the children all the time. They're hovering over them. Nothing should go wrong. Definitely it will go wrong at that time. Definitely it's going to go wrong. Okay. So parents can't talk to their children. Children can't talk to their parents. And this is how parallelly, like two railway lines, this thing goes on till youth. By the time a person comes into 24, 25 and they've been in relationships and breakups and messed up, so much messed up, they can't talk. But the only people who can help them are the parents. Okay. I've had clients, girls, who have told the parents, I want to talk to a therapist, but I don't want you to ask her what I'm talking to her. I don't want you to know that. Okay. It's a very sad thing. It's a very sad thing. Why would a 12th standard, 12th grade student want to talk to a therapist but cannot talk to the parents? Parents are afraid if they ask, something wrong will come. Already there is something wrong. They need to ask. Okay. And the children need to tell their parents. So that communication is very important. But both nowadays, it's such a sad situation that both need to be trained as how to talk to each other by a counselor now.
Yes, I can see that gap, and I also understand what you're talking about because there seems to be a big gap that's already been growing in between the parents and the youngsters
Yeah.
these days. It might be because of the society that we are in, where the parents do not have time to talk to their kids,
That is there.
or it is because the kids have got more avenues to talk to, or more people to reach out to, maybe because of the internet, maybe through their friends and the
Right.
other people that they're getting to talk to at school and college. They are not finding it safe or comforting to talk to their parents, but that needs to be avoided.
There is one more reason why they don't. As children, what happens is they see their parents talking to relatives about them.
Okay.
So they hear a mother is telling a sister, like, I'm very disturbed by what my daughter did today and all that. Now, after 6 months, all these things are done. When that sister comes home, she'll ask, you are troubling your mother so much.
Okay.
So this is an indirect thing, and it becomes that, okay, these adults are like that. They are we are going through. Parents have this, that these children are very bad, they are monsters, they can't understand. But both can understand, both can live harmoniously, accepting each other's mistakes.
Okay.
Parents have to accept that yes, we have made mistakes, and children have. That is when things improve, and that is when they come around and they have a very good relationship later on.
Great. So I have a very, I wouldn't say it's a controversial question, but an interesting question. how is the urge for physical intimacy related to emotional regulation? Now, because these are all students in their 20s and they get into so many relationships, and then that may go wrong, and that leads to a lot of distress as they keep going. Now, is there a way that they'll have to have control over it, or is there a way that they'll have to look at it from a emotional regulation perspective? Is that an emotion that needs to be considered and then cared for? So I really want your opinion on this.
A lot of times these youth, these students, they get into relationship, they get into physical intimacy, not because of wanting to be physically intimate, but because that's the in thing. To be in a relationship, you need to be physically intimate.
All
But
right.
to be physically intimate, you need to have two people attracted to each other. So if we take the first scenario where on a rebound you are in a relationship. Okay, so when you are in a relationship, it's a given thing that you sleep with each other. It is an ulta equation over here. Usually, or probably I would say that in my times, it was first you get physically attracted to a person, then you get into a relationship. But that's not happening now because the exposure is so much, seeing so many things, availability is there so much, and this new concept of sexting has come now. You
Yeah.
know, texting but talking about sex. These are all the things they get them into these unnecessary physical relationships, and they don't find the satisfaction of being in a physical. A relationship between a man and a woman is a very beautiful thing. The cognitive development is not such at that time to understand the beauty of that. Okay, in such cases there are abuses also. There are a lot of abuse happening here. So it is advisable not to get into physical relationship just because you are in a relationship with somebody. It's
Yeah.
not required.
They should not be looked as synonyms, is what I really feel. Unless and until you feel confident about
Yeah.
your relationship, unless and until you have that ability to take it with you and also be able to assign a meaningful feeling to what you're doing, you will need to stay away from that sort of inclinations, is what I strongly feel. Because
However, sorry to interrupt you. However, even if that has happened, say between the age of 15 to 25, if a girl or a boy has slept with 10, 15 different people, even if that has happened, and then they get into a meaningful relationship with somebody, as a therapist, I will not say that what you did was wrong. I would just say that chalk it up to bad experience and move on with your life and see if you can find meaning with this person. But it's very difficult because they're so messed up because of the physical intimacy and
yes,
body image issues.
yes, and that is exactly where I'm trying to stress upon, because that these people are really confused about a relationship with physical intimacy, and they try to casual themselves, and they try to take revenge, sort of seek more attraction or seek more acceptance from the other gender. There's a lot of situations that they get into that they're unavoidable.
Yes.
But at the same time, if they can really practice emotional regulation, and if they
Yes.
can have self-confidence in what they are, they have self-confidence in their body, their physical appearance, their emotions, as well as their personality as such, as a whole. I feel an absolute no need for them to prove themselves only by sleeping with someone or by being intimate with someone.
Yes.
That is what I really try to advocate here through this call today, that it is, these two things are not synonymous to each other.
Not
You
at all.
being in a relationship
Not
is
at all.
not synonymous to you being physically involved with someone.
Yes.
That doesn't prove your confidence as a guy or a girl, and you all need to understand this today, and that is the call that we are giving to you all. We are not calling it either right or wrong, but we are trying to explain you that you are adults, you are grown-ups now. You'll have to understand the society, and understanding the society and being a responsible person puts up a lot of responsibility on you. And that responsibility is about handling your own emotions and having a regulation around those emotions and trying to understand what is right versus what is inclined and what feels super cool. Everything that feels super cool is not that something that will make you feel
Not
good.
required.
Yes. So please be aware of such outcomes and ensure that you are being more emotionally regulated in terms of handling your physical inclinations as well. So any questions that you would want to ask from the counselor today before I take up my next call for the conversation? Anyone who would want to ask a question can unmute themselves and go ahead and ask questions from the counselor. Right. So my next question is about the parents' way of looking at their kids' emotional regulation. No matter what the kids does, because of a generation gap in between the parents and the kids, the parents might not perceive that the kids are handling it well, or their kids had the right set of emotional regulation, and they always tend to give them advices in their own fashion. So, what are the outcomes? What are the negative outcomes that we are seeing as counselors today when the parents are trying to self-impose their own understanding of emotional regulation on the next generation? Because what I understand is the emotional regulation quotient changes from generation to generation.
It does. It does. So the first negative outcome is defiance. Defiance, because you and me are not talking at the same wavelength.
Yes.
Okay. You are somewhere, I'm somewhere else. I'm talking about something else. You are talking about something else. There's no wavelength here. So defiance, which means you don't understand what I am saying. For this generation, being in a sexual relationship is not immoral. Being in a same-sex relationship is not immoral. Whereas for the earlier generations, it is immoral. Okay. They say it from a immoral point of view. Here, this generation sees it as a need of the hour. Okay. As a therapist, I see as a self-destructive path. Okay, so I need to bring these two different generation, different communication onto one page and see. So what is the major mistake parents make is they forget that they were teenagers also. They may not have done things to this extent, but they have done things. They have gone through crushes, they have gone through relationships, they have married somebody else totally. There are so many women who would say that they have not forgotten their first love, but they are married and they've been happy in their relationship, or they have not been happy in their relationship also. So they forget that they were kids, they were teenagers, they've gone through. Although a lot of times parents tell that, oh, we have also done this, but we were never like this, and we never disrespected our parents. What is disrespect? What is the definition of disrespect here? The child saying, no, you are wrong. I am just saying, I want to see. When a kid says, I want to hang out with my friends, and the parent is hearing it, I want to sleep with my friend. That's the communication gap. Hanging out with friends, you need to accept that that is a universal thing now. So you have to give them all the safety protocols and send them. How long is anybody going to protect anybody? I had this one beautiful client I must talk about without revealing who that is. A girl said, ma'am, I'm in this relationship. I've come to talk to you about it, but I don't want your advice. I just want you to listen to me. Okay, 90% of my work is over. I have to listen. At the end of it, it was such a messy thing. And I was like, literally, okay, I can't do anything to help this girl. Then I said, you know everything. Very intelligent person. All of these youth today who are watching here, I know are very intelligent. They are very intelligent. They are very smart. They know where they are going is wrong. This girl told me, ma'am, you can't help me. Nobody can help me. I know I am going into quicksand. Only when I want to come out, I will reach out a hand to you, you pull me up.
And she is deliberately doing it. I mean, she knows that she's going.
Yes.
All right.
What can you do about such? And what can parents do about such strong children or youth? Nothing. So I tell the parents, you wait, be there to pick up the pieces and put it back.
Now, it is interesting because the same person with such a strong personality and with such a strong determination to do what she is wanting to do, if she does constructive things and if she would want to take a path which is more positive and more impacting to a larger set of people, then she'll achieve miracles. I mean, she can
She
really
might,
do a lot of things.
she might even now do miracles later on after realizing this. She might become somebody who will be a path breaker for these guys. However,
No, true.
telling her to see, it's like this, somebody is pretending to sleep, you can't wake them up.
Yes.
Somebody who knows I am into, and that it is like an addiction. These relationships are like addictions. It's very hard. They are so deeply interwoven into so many things. It's very difficult to come out. And there will be an element of abuse, an element of blackmail, an element of so many things. So, but the girl, the confidence, what I liked about her is, I will come out, ma'am. And even if there is a finger coming out of that quicksand, you will have to pull me up from there.
So she's preparing you to pull her out of that
Yeah.
quicksand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, she knew that she'll need help at some point in time. She's
Yes.
so aware of her situation that she realized that she'll need someone to pull her out of that. And that is where she's keeping you ready.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And it is a transformed person who has come out of that quicksand, doing well, helping people, all of those things. There are several individuals like this.
no, that is very important. The reason that we are discussing this to this level and depth is because all of us might shy away from discussing these topics. All of us might feel bad that these topics should never be coming out to be discussed in front of their face or in front of their parents when they're around or in front of their teachers if they're on this call. But what is more important and what is more accepting point today is that we'll have to discuss and we'll have to make all of these young generation understand that there is no way that they can avoid such scenarios around them, but it is important for them to understand how to deal with such scenarios and how to be those people who are not wanting to get into the quicksand, rather who are those people who are wanting to avoid people from getting into the quicksand. So it is very important for you all, and I'm glad that we are discussing about it today. My next question is, where do you draw the line between someone's emotional regulation versus someone's arrogance to not to listen to someone? So because both of these people might be mistaken to be the same. So if someone is highly regulating their emotions and not responding to, let's say, parents, let's say, discussion.
Yeah.
Because the mom and dad would want to talk to them. The girl or the boy might be extremely angry or frustrated, but they're just trying to control their emotion and they're not responding. But the parents might feel that the kid is extremely arrogant that they're not even replying to them. Now that's one side of the thing. The other side of the story is the kid might be really arrogant and he's not even wanting to respond to the parents. So how do you differentiate such scenarios?
As a therapist, the person who, the kid who is not emotionally regulated, but not talking to the parents, is very easy to break for us.
Okay.
Very easy to break, because just this thing that without commenting, without judging, without saying, they judge the therapist as well. They judge what is your expression, what are you saying? Are you saying, oh, how could you do such a thing? That's what the parents would say. So we can't say all of those things. When they see that this is a person who is listening, who is not interrupting in me in between, who's not questioning my values, who's not questioning, who's not saying I'm characterless, moralless, I'm a bore, I'm a bitch, I'm a stud, who's not saying all of these things, is the person who's going to help me. That break is very easy. But the second part which you said is, I am making a mistake and I am not wrong.
Okay.
That is arrogance. That is very difficult to handle. Such children have eaten up their parents. We've seen that. Parents are scared of these children. And they go on the destructive path. You can't do anything for them.
Is there something that we can sort of do to help such kids? Because
We
is
keep
it because
talking
they're
and
not ready?
listening. We keep talking and listening, and we hope. Like there are many a times what happens is children, they are not told that they are being taken to a counselor. Okay,
Okay,
they're brought to saying we are going to meet a friend.
okay,
As a therapist, I have to say I am a therapist. I am not a friend. The few number of times when I have gone with the parents and behave like a friend, it has fallen flat like anything. So
okay.
I don't, yeah. So when they come to a therapist and they know they are making mistakes, they are into like everything. They are into drugs, they are into women, they are into stealing money, they are into blackmailing parents. The blackmail will be to the extent of I will kill myself or I will kill you. So medication is one way. So silently bringing Dr. Sri Lakshmi into the picture, very silently,
Okay.
getting the parents to talk and trying to medicate the person so that the anger goes down and then we can work on something. That's the only way I see.
So you're trying to reduce the levels of their excitement through
Aggression,
medication so
aggression
that they are brought down to a treatable level through
level.
counseling.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Because if we talk that time, they won't believe. They will go to n number of counselors. They will not trust the counselors. So
Great.
we have to bring them. Aggression is also physiological, and emotional, overwhelming emotions are also physiological. You can help people who, without their parents' knowledge, they will be cutting themselves up. Emotionally dysregulated people, they will be cutting themselves up because the hands can be seen, they'll be cutting their thighs.
Oh my
That's
God.
yeah, that's the only way for them to be relieved from the mental pain.
Okay. My observation around that is that they would want to show to their loved ones that they are at pain, and that is where they use the hand to cut. But I'm quite
These are
surprised
two
about
different
the
things. These are
yes.
two different things. One is cry for help. I want to come, I am in a bad relationship. I don't know what to do about it. I will cry for help. I'll cut myself. Or I'm going to fail the exam. I don't know what to do. It's a cry for help. I'll cut or I'll drink phenol or I'll do anything. That is depression. This is a whole personality. It is called a borderline personality disorder, wherein emotional dysregulation is the main symptom. Okay. So now to talk about this, most of the emotional regulation therapies are for borderline personality disorders, wherein they won't feel anything. They can't feel. They have this constant feeling of emptiness. This cannot be only by birth, okay? This can be because of so many issues which have happened in the past. Child sexual abuse and all of those, they become this person who cannot feel. For them to feel something and they don't want anybody to know that they are doing it, but they tell the therapist.
Now, uh, I'm lost with words. The next thing that I wanted to understand from you is the urban versus rural setup.
Mm.
Kids coming from the urban setup versus the kids who are from a rural upbringing and background.
Mm.
Do you see a trend or a change in their emotional regulation behavior? Especially because what I've thought is people who are getting more exposed to different means of connectivity and different means of high level technology would have more issues, whereas the people who are coming from the rural setup might not be having as many issues as the urbanite group. So, what is your observation around it?
So you see now there is, in terms of technology, there is not much difference between urban and rural. See, because the rural are also getting exposed to internet and to all these things. So I am quite not sure whether there will be, according to me, a person who's coming from a rural background to an urban background, to an urban, living, there will be a culture shock. There will be a culture shock. They might go into an adjustment issue. They might go into to a depression, seeing that they are not at match with. But women are more resilient and they are getting adapted and they are enjoying the freedom of the urban. Okay, there is a slightly more instances of depression in males coming from rural to urban.
Okay, that is interesting.
Yes, but the women are, they are getting a freedom, right? Supposing somebody is coming from somewhere, Guntur or somewhere to Hyderabad,
Yeah.
studied in Guntur all their life, coming to Hyderabad. Yeah. Is there a question?
Yeah. No, I'm just listening to you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there is a thing, but in terms of emotional regulation, it is not related to urban or rural. It is related to the personality, the personal resources one has. And very important one thing, I wanted to keep it towards the end, but I think I'll introduce it now. It is setting boundaries. So you can be an urbanite, you can be a rural person, but if you have your boundaries, you know your boundaries there, self kept boundaries, okay, not kept by the society. You know that emotionally they can be regulated.
Great. What is the difference between someone coming from a two children family to someone coming from a single child family? Is there a difference of their emotional regulation amongst these two cases?
Here again, individual differences will be there, but more or less single children are less emotionally regulated than who have multiple children at home. But having said that, if the parents are broad-minded, if the parents are allowing the child to take risks, not being so overprotective, then single children can also be emotionally stable, emotionally regulated. They need not be selfish or any of.
All right. And how does emotional regulation help these kids grow up as professionals when they keep growing up and when they start getting into companies and
Very good question.
yeah.
That's a very good question, because I'm seeing, see, as a professional, I see school children and I see IT professionals also, because I'm a lifespan counselor. So I see these children, I see these adults. Now, this is a very good question. What do we do is we bring up children to be very sensitive. Okay, maybe they are born sensitive and we make them very, very sensitive. We are very, each and everything is important. Each and everything, they take the criticism seriously. If they are not praised, they take it seriously. So their own sense of self is not developed. It's underdeveloped. Okay. Now, when these go into professions, they cannot handle criticism. They cannot handle criticism, and they also feel that because they've gone to good colleges, and also if you see this particular belt where Andhra Telangana belt, the marks are very important, the knowledge is not so important. Okay, so based on the marks they cannot survive in the work industries. So in your school, in your Chaitanya Narayanas, I'm being very open. Tomorrow I may be attacked for this, I don't know. But the Chaitanya Narayanas, they celebrate the children who get 100% marks, and they don't look at children who get less marks. Okay. These children, just imagine them converting into employees. When they convert into employees, they are not technically strong. They don't have social skills. They have a difficulty. They have a difficulty there. They break down, they go into depression, they go into mania, they go into anger. You name it, they have all of these issues because of the unrealistic value being given to the marks. So they have a difficulty, definitely.
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of my colleagues when I was working having these issues where they either could not talk amongst their peers because of the fear of being judged or because of the fear of being less emotionally balanced, or because of the fear of intelligence being not caught up with their peers. So all of these issues is what I have seen while I was working in the companies. And I myself have faced a lot of such issues when I was working in Australia. I feared a lot before I could talk in the meetings with the impression that...
You don't look like that.
Yeah, I do. It's only because of practice that I could talk today. In fact, I was also talking at an international conference last night, organized by New Delhi Institute of Management. And in that conference, I was highlighting the point that the youth today are not made to go through an interest led education or an education that can stimulate interest. Rather, they are going through an education that is stimulated by job market.
Yeah.
So there is a big difference in between these two, and that somehow is leading towards a less emotionally regulated generation
Absolutely.
who are thereby facing a lot of distress. And this is a platform where we are trying to address this. We are trying to talk more about all of this distress that is accumulated amongst you just because you do not know what is happening with you. See, ma'am, please add to my point. Being self-aware of our situation can help us a lot in understanding what we are going through.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is the first mantra of emotional regulation. Being
Yes.
aware. Right from being aware, you don't drink a Coke just because it's available. That's what's happening now. Just because Red Bull is available, I'm drinking Red Bull. Whether you need the Red Bull or not, what is the Red Bull going to do to you? There is no awareness of that. Okay. I'm eating pizza because it's supposed to be. I don't know how to eat pizza. I can't cut it with a fork. I'm not taught to cut it with a fork and knife and eat, but I'm doing that and I'm being clumsy. That means I am a useless person. So our self-worth, our self-awareness, what is my need? What do I need to do? What do I need to understand? How much should I take from people? These are the things we need to be aware of. Self-esteem, self-worth, and self-awareness. These are three very important things, whether you get 100 marks or you get 10 marks.
Are there some tips that you can give to our youngsters today to get into that self-understanding, to analyze their behaviors and understand if they need help, especially from a regulation, emotional regulation perspective?
Yes. So basically, these are very simple things, but it's very important. And being Indians, we've been brought up in a in a environment where we are very close to nature. Okay, getting up in the morning, doing a small prayer, looking at the nature, brushing, taking a bath, doing everything after a bath. Any good thing you do is after a bath. That's all cleansing things. So following a discipline, following a routine is very important. Now we are living in the reverse cycle. People are sleeping during the day, waking up at night. That itself is very disturbing for the mind and the body. We need to, yeah.
Now, you have touched upon a really interesting factor. Even I'm struggling to cope up with it, which is regularity or a routine. Just because we are always on the move, we are running and we are trying to catch up with a lot of things. Either it is when we are studying or if it is about setting up companies and trying to make them grow. How important is this routine or a regular lifestyle, which will have a set things to be done at a set time every day, will make a big difference about our ability to regulate our emotions.
Yes, not only that, success also.
Success, yes, please.
Success also. It's very important that you sleep and wake up at the same time. So the circadian rhythm is very important. If you miss out on your sleep, you may say that, yeah, I am like, I'm a jet setter. I can work in, 3 hours of sleep. I can work for 3 days, which is not true. You're not a lambe race ka ghoda then. You're looking for temporary. You will get a heart attack at 35. Okay, these are all lifestyle issues now. Diabetes, thyroid, BP, and all these are lifestyle disorders because we take a lot, we use our emotional resources. See, we are born with a certain resource which is to last the whole life, but we are using it because we are in this rat race. So, sleeping on time, waking on time, eating on time, exercising on time, these are very important, and we should avoid excess of anything.
Even excess of eating, I would want to highlight that.
Absolutely.
Because we are a generation who eats for the sake of eating and who is fond of eating, and we just keep eating. So
one parent came to me one day and said that I gave my child school fees to go and pay with the driver. I have sent this kid to pay 2,000 rupees, and he did not pay the fees. He came back and he told the school was closed and I did not pay the fees. Where is the money? I ate it. 2,000 rupees. He has visited Pizza Hut. He has visited Domino's on one particular day. One whole same day. He's gone to Creamstone ice cream. He's eaten everything. He's fallen sick the next day. So the mother was like, what is the, she was shocked. She came to me for counseling. Where did I go wrong? Why did he eat like that? It is not as if he is not eating. But that's not the question. The question here is, how much of his feelings you are denying, right? From childhood. If a child says, see, everybody is born with a different sensorial inputs, okay? Now, if there might be a child who will feel hot in winter, and you are asking the child to wear a jacket, the child is telling, I am feeling hot, I don't want to wear a jacket. But the jacket looks good, you bought a new jacket for your child. The child, and you're saying, no, it is very cold, you have to wear. You're denying the feelings of the child.
And maybe you're going with a general perception that everyone will be feeling cold during a winter.
Yeah, that. So I'm just talking about this. There are things like, I don't like this teacher. No, she's a very good teacher, denying. Okay, I'm hungry. Most of the boys will be hungry immediately after eating.
Immediately after eating?
Yeah, they would be hungry. Because the hunger is not the hunger is in the eyes. They see something, they want to eat it.
And just why just the boys?
Mostly, now I can say few girls also in that count, but mostly the boys are like that. Because they're hyperactive, right? They'll be running around. They're more running around kind of people. So they quickly digest and they see something, they want it. Impulse is there. Lack of impulse control is there. Girls are trained to control their impulses, right? Now, if the mother says, no, you can't be hungry, that means you're not denying food. You're denying the feelings of the person. So like this, all your life, your feelings have been denied. If the person says that, no, I don't want to do engineering, I want to do hotel management. What will we do? What will you do for your food? If you don't do engineering, it will be a backup for you. Arey, my brain doesn't work there. It doesn't work in engineering. Denial. So with what confidence this engineer will go and work in a software industry?
Yeah.
So this is what it is. The denial of emotions right from childhood will lead to this. You can't think anything right. You can't do anything right. You don't know what to wear. If this is how the communication is going to be.
Yeah, there's a question. How can we try being mentally stable in situations that are very tough to go through, ma'am? Or how can we motivate ourselves in such situations? I think ma'am has already been answering all of this.
But it's a very generic question and it is a very personal situation you're talking about. But generally, in a very difficult situation, most people are known to break down. So it's okay to break down, but you need to, bring yourself out of it, seeing a lot of other things around you. What is good? What happens is when does a mental breakdown happen is when a person doesn't remain in the present. They remain either in the past or they go to the future.
Manu has a question, sent us a question, but I would want to take that question in the next episode with a counselor, because that's more on a relationship issue. I would want to ask one last question for the day, and that is around what role does physical fitness play on emotional regulation?
Very big role.
Yeah.
There's a very big role. It is very important to fix a time for a workout of your choice, okay? People might say, why do you go to the gym? You can climb up and down the stairs and all of those things. But no matter what is your choice, even you can dance. Dance is a very good form of fitness. Anything which pumps up your blood circulation, makes you feel good, even in depression. The first thing which we do when somebody comes with emotional regulation issues or depression is we make a schedule for them and tell them that out of this at least do 2 things. And one of the things is walking for 45 minutes. So emotional regulation, 45 minutes of a walk, a brisk walk or a run. I mean, if somebody who is 30-year-old comes and tells me, ma'am, I go for a walk, I will tell them you need to go for a run. Walking is for people like me. You need to go for a run. or you need to play football. There is no playing anymore.
That is very true. I mean, all of this generation has stopped playing sports, and that pains us a lot because
again, there is also a problem here. They want to play football at, at FIFA level or at some level. My boss, just, kick the ball on the ground, right? That is playing, not on FIFA. Too much of internet, too much of gaming, online gaming with strangers messes up your emotions.
And also Netflix and Prime Video seems to have taken all of their football and cricket time.
Yeah. There is a race about which episode you have watched or you did not watch and all of those things.
Absolutely. I mean, Game of Thrones, all of the Turkish series is what is being discussed today. I mean, our kids are more interested in Ertugrul, the Turkish series, rather than playing with their friends.
In Korean.
Yeah.
Most girls, they like to watch the Korean. Ask them K-pop. They will, and they learn the language. They learn the language and they do that. And it's a very beautiful thing. They say their life is so beautiful. We don't know they are acting.
No, it is also good. Yes, we encourage and we are happy that you're finding an interest in it. But it is also about balancing your overall personality through the things that you're supposed to do on a regular basis every day. And that is where we are insisting that you have to regulate your emotions. Your physical fitness, your mental fitness will all help you in regulating your emotions. With that, we come to the end of our discussion today. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a lovely discussion about, and also an intensive discussion about emotional regulation. And I would recommend, Manu, this is also for you. Please do email the question to lets.talk@unifi.com, and we shall be taking this up with the next counselor tomorrow, as well as there are other counselors joining us every day. And I would want you all to take benefit out of what we are doing and keep sending us your questions. Encourage your friends to send questions, as well as come join us on this live talk and talk to the counselors here, because we are wanting you to talk. We are wanting you to build that confidence. Yes. Through our initiative. If we can make a difference to at least 10 people, we are already successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because these 10 people will then have a chain effect on the society where they'll be able to help 10 more people.
Yeah.
So
there is no point in struggling and suffering within yourself without expressing. If somebody is coming into your space, physically, if somebody comes into your space, you will not tolerate. So emotionally, if somebody comes into your space, also you should say, boss, please keep away first. Let me regulate myself. Let me breathe. Breathing is a very good way of regulating emotions. This is one thing I want to say before you close. Emotional regulation, there are two very important things. One is reacting and the other is response. When we are reacting to something, it is impulsive and it is often wrong. When we respond, we take a little time. We breathe. We drink a glass of water and we get back. Like when we don't know the information, we say, we'll get back to you. So similarly, when you are not sure about your emotions, you need to say, I will get back to you. And you need to take a step back, do that breathing, deep breathing, and then you will have clarity. Okay, I don't need to take this crap from anybody. And that is how you will be emotionally regulated. So never react. Always respond to any situation, any emotion, anything. Take your time and do it, but do it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all. Please keep talking. Please keep coming back on the show and ask your questions to us. And we're always happy to address your questions. Again, please remember this. There is no good and bad question. No question is bad. No situation or no scenario is bad. It is, if you're not able to put it forward, if you're not able to talk to someone, then that is bad. And we would want to avoid such scenarios for you. And we are here to talk to you. If you're not able to talk on the show, amongst everyone else, please do write to us and we shall keep your details anonymous and we shall be able to provide the right support and guidance to you. Please write down to lets.talk@unifi.com. And thank you so much for everyone who's there on the call today. Thank you, ma'am. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.